Friday, Adam.
Yay, happy Friday.
Yay.
I can't believe a whole week's gone by.
I know. I love our automatic mouth Fridays.
Yeah.
Now, what we wanted to talk about today is totally steered by me due to the fact that you fell asleep while I was talking to you last night. So
It's hypnosis, darling. I went into hypnosis. You're so powerful.
yeah, I am so powerful. I literally put you into a hypnotic trance as we spoke. Yeah, for sure. But it got me thinking about something that we love to talk about, which is excuses or results. I know. Well, because let's add a little context for fun, and because it's fun for me. That's really all this is about. Fun for me.
It's gonna make me pay.
Yeah. So a bit of context that after you fell asleep, and I giggled to myself for also realizing that I didn't bother checking in as I, gave you my 20-minute monologue. That I hung up, went to bed, whatever. And then when I looked at my phone the next time, after you had woken up and realized the tragedy that had unfolded, there were like 6 deleted messages that had come through.
Yeah.
And I said to you, didn't I? I said, oh, so what was so bad that you had to delete it 6 times? And your response was?
It's just my bullshit excuses.
Bullshit excuses, bullshit, right?
And excuses, yep.
And we can admit that. I mean, that's taken time for us to get to that point where we can just say, yeah, you know what, actually.
Absolutely. Just to give a little bit of context, a little bit of additional context, I've been moving house. Well, I'm coming up for moving house this weekend. So I've been like flat out working and packing a whole 3-bedroom, semi-detached house and all the malarkey goes with it, solid. So, let's just say not much sleep. And then, of course, I sat down to have a chat with my wonderful friend who's got, wonderful dulcet tones. And I had a puppy cuddled up to me that was also sleepy. So it was like sleepy vibes. I was gone like a light.
It was
please carry on, just with that additional, context. But like I said, coming back to the point, I woke up this morning and you said, saw all those deleted messages because I kept on typing things and then just thinking, oh, that's bullshit, just excuse. They're all just excuses. The fact of the matter is I just passed out. And you have to take responsibility, don't you? This is I think it's a responsibility point.
So that's brought us here to today. And and one of the things we talked about before, and let's run over it again now. We talked about that, the reason we make excuses initially, isn't it, is because we feel guilty. We feel bad. We want to have a good enough reason for doing the thing that's actually probably a bit against our values. It's not really how we would want to behave. So we've behaved in a way against that.
And now I love falling asleep when people are talking to me. What do you mean?
What are you talking about, Ali? I've never listened to the end of your conversation once. Okay, we'll discuss that another time.
That's another podcast.
Yeah, that's another time. Moving on. And so I wonder, well, let's get back on track. When we talk about excuses, what if we were actually to simply take responsibility and be honest about where we're at? And, and I've heard people say, oh, but sometimes it's easier to make excuses because I don't want to hurt someone's feelings. Now, I also call bullshit on that.
Yeah, because that's on them. Somebody else is in charge of whether they decide to be hurt or, have their feelings injured and all that stuff.
Exactly.
And, you saying this morning, well, I'm absolutely fine. Don't worry about me, because I was like, oh, my goodness. And, it is always on the other person. You would never intentionally want to do something like that, but you would hope that your friends and, in strong enough relationships that there's enough understanding and rapport, talking about, what, 2 podcasts ago, the subject of rapport, where someone just goes, "You know what? It doesn't matter." And you falling asleep on me has no bearing on it. Or, you not turning up to something, or turning up an hour late to XYZ, or, if you're meeting someone for lunch and things happen, there's all kinds of things, and people go, "Oh, that really hurt me." It's like, well, no, you decided whether you're going to be hurt or not.
Exactly. But
And that sounds harsh, but it's true.
it's the truth. And that's part of really starting to live intentionally.
Yeah.
It's starting to get rid of some of the smoke and mirrors that we put up around ourselves.
Yeah.
And here's the other side of that too. When we say, "Oh, but I didn't want to hurt their feelings." The reason I call bullshit on that as well is because when you're really honest with yourself, it's not that you're worried about hurting their feelings. It's that you don't want to deal with the fallout of that. Because if they decide to be hurt by what you've said or what you've done, then that's going to make you feel a certain way. And
yes,
that's
absolutely.
what you're avoiding. That's what you avoid.
There's a lead up to it, though, isn't there, as well? It's about the choice that you make. So, do you just fail to go to a birthday dinner and just think, "Oh, you know what, whatever"? And do you say anything first? Do you not, say anything first? Like, what choice do you make, whether you're going to go? Something popped up recently, and a very dear friend of mine was having a birthday dinner, and we'd been talking about it for 2 or 3 weeks, and then it was all like, "Yeah, up for it, blah, blah, blah." And then something happened at this end, and it was just like, you know what, if we go to the birthday, the vibe, we're going to kill the energy, we're not in birthday party mode.
Yeah.
So, what's better? Do you go to the party and show up and just be a miserable bugger for, because you're just thinking, you're not present and thinking about something else? Or you man up and say, "You know what, it's just not going to be the time, and I don't want to ruin your birthday party. I love you to pieces. And we'll see you next week, and we'll do something else another time." It's much better to do that and just man up and handle it. Well, I mean, man up. That's a bit of a controversial phrase, but
Human up. Human up.
Human up. Yeah. Do you just take responsibility for things and control the fallout, and just be like, just like you said, just be honest and tell the truth, and just say, "You know what? Yeah, absolutely. I'll put my hands up to it," blah, blah, blah. Or, so it's that intention. You don't want to hurt someone's feelings. Yes, absolutely. However,
where's the line as well?
Their sensitivity is not your responsibility. Your impact on things is the responsibility. And if your intentions are good and you set things out right and just say, "Look, you're not going to probably like this, and I hope you see that, my reasons are genuine," and blah, 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 then and this is my decision. And as long as you're making the choice, you are in control.
Exactly.
Of the whole situation. And if somebody else gets offended, well, let them.
I always say you're welcome. If
you're welcome,
someone's got offended, you're welcome. That's for you to work on, because until you know the truth of my intentions, what is there to be offended about? That's all about you, not me.
100%.
And here's the other thing I think about. I spend far too much time thinking. That aside, take something that's meant to be a joyous occasion, or a birthday party, or even just, going out to dinner with someone, or giving someone a phone call, something that's connecting like that. I truly do not want anyone that I care about to be doing any of those things out of an obligation.
Yes.
There's difference between when you've got, obligations in a work setting, you've got to show up to things and do things. It's part of your job, I suppose. Yeah. But when it comes to relationships, friendships, that sort of thing, I don't want people to feel obligated to, show up to something or make me feel a certain way or whatever. I want it to be genuine. And so if my friend says, "Look, you know what? I know we were meant to get together tonight, but you know what, Ali? I'm actually really fucking exhausted. great. Yeah, you know what? I want you on your A game, so let's do this another night. Like,
Yeah, I never get bothered by things like that. Well, haven't done for quite some over a decade now.
I used to. I used to take it very personally and think that they were rejecting me, you
Yeah,
know?
absolutely. I
Yeah,
think, I mean, you can go down another rabbit hole with it. I think,
of course.
if I always want people to do what they want to do, and
Yeah.
if one of those things is they want to come and spend time with me, then wonderful. That shows everything. But if on by the third thing that's been organised, someone's still not come, then that also shows,
Hmm.
their behaviour shows what they because behaviour, shows what's inside, right? You can tell
Yeah.
everything about that. If they're genuine reasons, fine. But by the third time, somebody's not text you back and not, then it's like, okay, well, so there's a wonderful coach that I follow, and she came online, and she said, you know what, I've just been listening to somebody talk about somebody that she follows, something called the let them theory. If somebody wants to go and do exercise and be offended or not turn, let them. If people want to organize a brunch with everybody else and not invite you, let them. you know I was like, yes, let them. And I very much operate like that, and have done for quite some time. Let people get on with it. If they want to come. If they don't, they don't. And that came from one of my dear friends, Lisa Black, if you're listening, and her wonderful mum Shirley. You can play this to her. I remember the first morning. So this gorgeous family kind of took me in at one point, and in a former life back in London, I remember Shirley was sitting there in her kitchen at this round table. She had like a cup of tea, a bit of toast on the go, a curl is in her hair. You can imagine that, a wonderful, glamorous lady, and she'd been through a lot. She was on major recovery after a stroke and things like that. And she said, "Look, you know what? You only get one life." She said, "So, you know, F them. What anybody wants to think doesn't matter. You just get one life. You do what you want to do, love." She said.
Hmm.
What a fantastic piece of advice. And actually, all of those girls and one brother live like that. If they didn't want to go to a party, they didn't care. It was like, no, I want to do what I want to do, and I'm going to go and do that. Because the time together that they spend was so genuine and full of love. Anyway, it
Hmm.
doesn't. Not turning up to one thing doesn't matter. They all know they loved each other anyway. And that's the thing, isn't it? If you're present and genuine in those relationships, and they're not codependent, and there's that hint of well, it's codependency, right? One party needs one thing from the other side in order to feel self-worth and value and all that other stuff. As long as that stuff's not there and it's all intentional and full of the right stuff, then it doesn't matter. Just be truthful and be present in the relationships, and don't get offended. It's bullshit.
Well, bringing it back to excuses, that's the other side of excuses is results.
Yeah.
It's when you make excuses, you're not really looking at the truth. You're not living truthfully. You're not speaking truthfully. And so, how do you really know what's going on if all you're making are excuses? When you choose the truth, as much as it might offend someone or hurt you or be uncomfortable, whatever the outcome, the point is you have a result. You know then where to go from there. And you have an outcome. Whereas excuses tend to not give outcomes, do they? Excuses put things off and leaves almost like an open loop.
Yes.
Don't they? It doesn't finalize anything, and it doesn't actually create anything. I don't know.
Well, it creates actually, like, it's disharmony and
Yes, good word.
dishonesty. So just tying the story that I just told, they're not making excuses to each other. They're
Yeah.
not going, oh well, I don't want to come because blah blah because fuck all that shit. They're just saying, no, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. And it's all get, and everyone's like, you know what? And I'm cool with that. There are no excuses. It's just unbridled honesty. And you know, that's what I find with excuses. And I don't make them these days. I just say, you know what? Nah, I'm doing X, Y, Z instead. Sorry. You know.
And
And
it's so being able to move away from excuses and rely, you know, more on the truth, honesty. It's another form of putting boundaries in, isn't it?
it is.
Because you're setting a boundary and people get to know that boundary then. They know that when they ask you, hey, do you want to catch up for, you know, drinks tonight? And the person says, no, you know what? I actually just want to sit at home on my couch and watch, you know, the new Housewives. That it's not a personal thing. They're being truthful with you. They're giving you the respect of telling you the truth. And that's their boundary they put in place. I do what I want, and I'm not going to do anything for other people out of an obligation. I'm going to do it out of respect. You know, there's a big difference there. I love that.
I think it does, you know, as they say, it comes with age. You know, as we get, you know, as we progress, and you know, the 40-odd-year-old version of me is very different to the 20-something version of me, where, you know, I'd be out all the time and doing something, yeah, let's go, and then you think, oh God, why did I do that? And actually, you end up having this thing about yourself. You think, oh God, I really must stop doing things like that. Why do I do that? And all that, you know, it's an internal dialogue trigger.
Yeah.
You know, and you just skip all of that stuff if you just say, no, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. And then, you know, it's truth, isn't it? At the end of the day, like you say.
And I love actually listening to you talk about that, Adam. It brought me back to something we discussed earlier before we started recording. About you said, you know what, Ali, sometimes I'm just like, you know, Harrison, your 5-year-old toddler. I really am.
Yeah.
And you think about, you know, doing what we want. When we were younger, we did, didn't we? You look at the biggest problem, push and pull that we have with kids is because they're hell bent on doing whatever they want to do.
Yes.
And then you go through this process of growing up. Not everyone does. You go through this process of where you start to consider other people's, you know, needs and wants as well, don't you? And perhaps at some point, it's about learning, how do we have both? How can we still be truthful and do what we want and create what we want, whilst also helping others do the same?
Yes.
And perhaps sometimes we get lost on either side of that coin, you know? We either become totally all about us and factor in no one, or we sometimes go the other way and we become a people pleaser where we're all about the other people and, you know, at the expense of our own needs and wants.
Yeah. And I think there's a, you know, you have to really clarify to yourself, you know, a need versus a want, you know.
Oh, yeah.
You know, why do you need to have somebody there? Why do you need to blah 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 with your partner, and why do you need to do that? You know, actually it's a wonderful place so that you don't need anything, but you want to spend time with someone because of X or Z, and you want because it feels good, and you want that creates wonderful things, you know, versus a need, you know. So again, stepping away from that kind of codependent type friendship or partnership with, you know, your life partner, or however you want to dice that up. You know, I've been looking a lot and researching a lot and talking to people a lot about codependent scenarios recently, and you know, how dangerous that situation can actually be. However, that's another podcast.
Because it's such a juicy thing to talk about as well. However, I think, you know, in a nutshell, for me, what you spoke about is, and choices, right?
Yes.
That need versus want, it comes down to choosing what you want to do as opposed to that obligation or I have to. I need to. What
Yeah.
if you just choose to do X,
Honestly,
Y, Z? Yeah, I love that.
much better.
So I trust that we've given people food for thought about excuses the next time they make an excuse. And you know what? Let's also, I know we're a bit longer today. However, I did want to point this out. Something about excuses. You know, I still make excuses. However, the difference is, just like you did with your messages, it's about owning the excuse, because the result that you have is, you know, up to the choice you've made. And so if I choose to, you know, take a couple of days off of my business because I feel poorly and, you know, just want to lounge on the couch, then there's no point in whinging 2 days later that I haven't moved forward in a couple of projects and then making excuses about it. Instead, just own up and say, yeah, I'm where I am right now because I chose to take a couple of days off and do fuck all.
Absolutely.
And just own that.
My favorite quote on this subject, and it's it's always a big one for me. It was powerful when I heard it over a decade ago. We are free to choose, but we are not free from the consequences of our choices.
I love that. I've heard you say that a few times and it's stuck with me now as well. I really love that.
Really,
and
really key.
It's really powerful, and it can be empowering depending on how you choose to take it. You can choose to be empowered by that quote as well, which I do.
Own it, baby. That's what you say.
All right, let's wrap this bad boy up. It's been awesome, Adam, as always. Love chatting with
Likewise.
you. And we're definitely going to have to do a whole nother sesh on codependency. That's going to be AF.
I'm loving it. Yeah, we'll do that. It's all fresh.
All right, darling. See you
All
next
right.
Friday.
See you later.
Bye.